talk to David, who's calling us from my neck of the woods, Southern California. David, welcome to the program.
Hey, Henry, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So my wife is a very highly anxious person, and I get really frustrated with her. You know, you've heard it said before, there are like two kinds of people in the world, those that see the glass half full and half empty. Well, my
That's
wife's
true.
like the third type. My wife's the third type. You know, is this the right glass? Is the glass maybe half full, but maybe it's half empty? What if I break the glass? You know, what if the glass has the wrong measurement? This is kind of how she functions and works in her life. And I get really frustrated because when it comes to making a big decision, she can't do it. And I'm the opposite. I'll make a decision and I'll stick with it and I'll be fine with it.
Okay.
I can give you a current thing that we're dealing with to kind of give you a context here. So my 12-year-old son, he needs to get braces on. Well, our dentist recommended braces. And so we researched orthodontists in the area. And if it was up to me, he would have them on already. But my wife's online researching radiation, root damage and all these things. And so, at this point, the dentist mentioned it about 6 months ago, and we still haven't put the braces on. And
What's the dentist,
so I don't know how
what is the dentist saying about the time lapse when y'all talk to him?
Yeah, so now would be ideal because he's 12. And so if he puts them on now, he'd only have them on for 14 months versus later where he would have them on a longer period of time.
No, I get that. But the fact the dentist said, let's do these braces. So 6 months has gone past, right? So what is the dentist telling you about waiting? In other words,
he's
is he
pretty
calling?
patient.
He's what?
No, none of that's going on. It's just the fact that, we do have some time still, he said, because of the fact that he's still young. So it's not like it has to be done tomorrow. But however, my personality is I like to just get it done, and my son's ready for it. But she just can't make these kind of decisions. This is just one of many things that she struggles with making.
Okay. So, Kim, what is the question? There's a lot in here.
Yeah.
Right?
So how do I deal with the frustration? I get really frustrated with her because, again, I'm like the opposite. I'll just make a decision. So how do I deal with the frustration? I signed her up for your seminar on Wednesday, the anxiety seminar.
Right, because this sounds like a lot of anxiety. A lot of this sounds kind of like it's rooted in some various kinds of anxiety, right?
Yeah, and so I guess the question for me is, how do I deal with my frustration? Because I get really frustrated with her over this.
Okay, so lest I tell you to do something you've already tried, tell me what you've tried to deal with your frustration.
Well, I try to be understanding, and I give her the benefit of the doubt. So I'll read the research she's found, like, for instance, on the radiation of the X-ray, and I don't try to push her to make a decision. But then again, at the same time, my frustration is the fact that I want things done. So I don't know if I've done a lot in that regards. I just kind of try not to be too pushy about things.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what else I should do.
Okay. Well, have you ever so the braces issue is a problem, right? But it's really not a problem. It's a pattern. Because this, you said, fits into a lot of different things, that it's hard for her to hit go, right?
Yeah.
So instead of talking about the braces, tell me what you guys have done to address the pattern. In other words, sit down and say, honey, here's something that I want to talk about in our relationship and we need to get resolved. There's a lot of times when things that I feel are very critical that have to be done. And you have a different timeline on it and we have conflict about it. How are we going to resolve that? So what's been, if you've addressed it at that level, what's been tried there? Because the braces are just one of many examples, right? It's a pattern. She's a procrastinator, because of anxiety.
Yeah, so I guess we really haven't. I mean, we've talked it to death probably in discussions, and it kind of almost like it goes in this. We've talked it to death, basically. It kind of goes in circles where I always bring up the point that you can't make a decision. But we haven't had any resolution on that. And I'm hoping the anxiety seminar will help give her some insight into that.
Well,
But as far as
it,
like,
it will, but what I'm asking is, you've talked it to death in the individuals, but have you gotten above it and said, we have a relationship problem in that we have two different styles of making decisions and two different timelines. And so let's come up with a strategy that can satisfy both of us.
yeah, that's a good idea. I haven't looked at it at that level. It's more like,
That's what I would do, because see, right now it's kind of like a tug of war. You're on let's hit go, and she's on no, let's wait. And then that tug of war just gets put into a new topic where you're too slow, I want to go, right? And so it's still a tug of war. What I want to do is I want to get both of you, okay, not tugging at each other, but let's say, okay, you like to get all your ducks in a row, right? I like to, let's call it, you've heard of ready, aim, fire, right? She's like
mm-hmm.
ready, 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 and never gets to aim and fire. And you're more like fire, ready, aim, right? Let's go fast. So I would, without without making it like she has a problem in the beginning, I would talk about how, we're different. And this gets frustrating to me sometimes because I really start to think about the dangers of waiting with some things. It gets frustrating to you because I'm really pushing you past where you feel comfortable. And what we have here, and this is a great question, David, for like, kind of everybody. What we're really talking about is two humans here whose, let's call it anxieties, whose anxieties are hitting each other. Okay. Now she has anxieties about, it sounds like, I mean, what is she afraid of? Making a mistake? Is that kind of the bottom line to all these things? I might make the wrong decision.
I think that's the bottom line. Plus, she's worried
Okay.
about, as, like the example with the orthodontist, maybe making a mistake or picking the wrong
Okay.
one, or my son having side effects, things like that.
Okay. So she's worried about making the wrong decision. You're worried about the effects of not making a decision. And you both have anxieties about this. So here's what happens when two people have anxiety. Now, I'm not calling yours a disorder, right? In this example, and I've only got your side of it. In this example, you've got, I mean, you could get a second opinion, but you've got somebody does this all the time. And, orthodontist says time for braces. Normal thing for kid to get braces. A lot of kids get braces. I don't know if anybody ever died from braces. Low risk. You can fix it later if it doesn't work. And you're saying, well, I'm anxious for waiting because if we wait, it's going to be harder and he's going to, it's just better now. So you got two states of not feeling good hitting each other. So what I want you to do is talk to her about that and value hers and value yours. Say, I really get afraid a lot of times of waiting because waiting is going to create more problems in my view. You get afraid of pulling the trigger because pulling the trigger might create a problem. So let's talk about a way to address both of our fears in a way that addresses both of our fears. Okay. I think if you start there, and you may have to have a third party to do this, but I think if you start there, that will at least give you a better track to even talk to a good counselor about this. And I hope that what could happen is that if you address that, and this is kind of the, I don't want to call it a strategy or a trick or whatever. It's just his reality, David. That what's going to emerge if she really has an anxiety disorder is that when you're trying to address her fears and get a way to do this, it's not going to solve it. And that's the point at which she'll be closer to admitting that maybe she also has to work on her anxiety, not just work on making a decision with you. So we're hoping to get
Hmm.
to a place where she can own that maybe she would get a lot more out of life if she could move faster. But it's hard to do that without addressing it in the way I described earlier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That's really
Okay,
helpful.
great. Um, it's tough when people have different risk assessments. We're always doing risk assessments. She sounds like, if you've depicted her accurately, it sounds like that she's a great candidate for just normal treatment of an anxiety disorder, where she could change her brain, to where it doesn't fire off negative alarms all the time. There's a lot of people that just, it's sort of like a car alarm. It's set too high, and trash truck drives by. I'll be talking about this on Wednesday. Trash truck drives by, alarm goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning. You wake up in your bed, oh crap, we got a burglar. No, it's just a trash truck, right? And your brain has learned that, so you don't get out of bed, you don't go grab the shotgun, or you don't go call the police or whatever, because you know what, it's just a trash truck. That's part of how an anxiety disorder gets addressed too, that the brain hasn't learned that some things aren't worth activating all of this anxiety about. And so the process that I described with her, well, at least she'll feel like she has an ally instead of somebody that's frustrated with her. Okay. Still there?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, David.
That makes a lot of sense.
I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, and I will try to. I'll try to even keep this in my head. It'd be a great example. Because a lot of couples face this. It's like one person's going, make a decision, and the other's going, oh no, but if we do, the house will burn down. So thank you for your call. I think a lot of people can relate to it. All righty. Speaking of Wednesday that David mentioned for us, he's talking about the anxiety seminar that we're having right here. It's the webinar this Wednesday, December 9th. And I'm going to be talking about different kinds of anxiety disorders and what can be done about them, because they can be treated. Yes, yes. If you have stress and anxiety, fears, phobias. Do you know there are people that were agoraphobic and could not leave the house that now go all over the world? Why? Nature hasn't really changed in leaving the house. Well, sort of right now, it's a little different, but in general, okay, before the pandemic, what changed? Their system inside got healed. And all of our fear systems, can I normalize the playing field here? All of our fear systems are broken, just like every other thing inside of our skin. We're just broken, right? Nothing's perfect. And some of us, like, nobody's heart is perfect. Everybody can register some plaque on the placometers. But some people got really, really a lot of clogged arteries, and they're, having like heart problems all the time. Some people, it's their pancreas, and their blood sugar's off. None of us, all these internal organ systems are off because we live in an imperfect world, what the Bible calls a fallen world. It's not like it was created to be. We have the disease of separation from life now, and there's death processes that are happening in the earth all the time. So that affects your fear system as well. And on Wednesday, in the anxiety event, what I'm going to be talking about is how that fear system works. Okay, because we all have it. You have a thermostat in your house or your apartment, and it's supposed to be regulated at whatever temperature you set it at. right? So let's say you put it at 68 degrees. Well, if it goes to 69 or 70, the thermostat clicks on the air conditioner that's supposed to respond to that and bring it back down. If it goes below that, it clicks on the heater that's supposed to bring it back. Well, we all have a system, and that's our fear response and assessment system. And that's not perfect. And for some people, it's over not perfect. way not perfect, not perfect on steroids, right? And so their systems get anxious when they really ought to feel fine. There's other people that don't get anxious when they really should. Did you ever see that documentary about the guy that climbs that face? Oh my gosh, what an incredible documentary that was. He climbs the face. What's Albie, help me here. What is that? The rock climber guy that does it with no ropes?
Oh gosh, what is his name?
Solo.
It's the free solo guy. Yeah. What's
Free
his
Solo.
name?
Is that the name of the documentary?
Yeah. Hold on one second.
Okay, if you guys want to get vicarious anxiety, then go to Netflix or wherever it is and watch. Albie will come up with the name here.
It's
so this
Alex Honnold.
And what is the name? What's the name of the show?
It's called Free Solo.
Okay, go watch Free Solo. It'll scare you even though you're sitting in your living room. This guy climbs the face of these mountains, a wall like this, sometimes almost inverted, with nothing. Fingernails. Okay? Insane. Literally. So guess what they did? They studied the guy's brain. He's got an anxiety disorder, in my view. You know what it is? He ain't got none. His fear centers just don't wake up unless he is in extreme adrenaline junkie mainliner territory. It's crazy. The point being, all of us are a little off center somewhere. We got to get recalibrated.